Thessalonians Chapter 4, Through the Bible. Part 8. Paul goes on to say, "We are confident, I say, and willing rather to be absent from the body, and to be present with the Lord." 2 Corinthians 5 verse 8. I can't think of anything lovelier than that. If you should attend my funeral, I wouldn't want you to come by and say that I look so natural. Friend, I won't even be there. You will just be looking at my tent that I have left behind. It's my old house that has been put to sleep. I will be gone to be with the Lord. At the resurrection, our bodies will be raised up. Many years ago in the city of New York, in fact, it was way back in the day when liberalism was called modernism, back in the 1920s, they had an argument about whether resurrection was spiritual. The liberal even today claims it's spiritual. He doesn't believe in bodily resurrection at all. A very famous Greek scholar from the University of Chicago read a paper on the passage from 1 Corinthians 15. It is sown a natural body. It is raised a spiritual body. There is a natural body, and there is a spiritual body. 1 Corinthians 15 verse 44. His paper put the emphasis on the word spiritual. He concluded by saying, "Now, brethren, you can see that resurrection is spiritual because it says it's spiritual." The liberals all applauded. And somebody made a motion that they print that manuscript and circulate it. Well, a very fine conservative Greek scholar was there, and he stood up. When he stood, all the liberals were a little uneasy because he could ask very embarrassing questions. He said, "I'd like to ask the author of the paper a question." Very reluctantly, the good doctor stood up. "Now, doctor, which is stronger, a noun or an adjective?" "A very simple question, but I'd like for you to answer it." He could see the direction he was going and didn't want to answer it, but he had to say that a noun is stronger, of course. "Now, doctor, I'm amazed that you presented the paper that you did today. You put the emphasis upon an adjective, and the strong word is the noun. Now let's look at that again. It is sown a natural body. It is raised a spiritual body." He said, the only thing that is carried over in resurrection is the body. It's one kind of body when it dies, a natural body. It's raised a body, but a spiritual body, dominated now by the Spirit, but it's still a body. And they never did publish that paper. They decided it would be better not to publish it. May I say to you, just a simple little exercise in grammar would have answered this great professor's whole manuscript and his entire argument which he presented at that time. Daniel is another writer who spoke of the death of the body as sleep. "And many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt." Daniel 12 verse 2. Dust will go back to dust, that's the body, but the spirit goes to God who sent it. For the early Christians adopted a very wonderful word for the burying places of their loved ones, the Greek word koimeterion, which means a rest house for strangers, a sleeping place. It is the same word from which we get our English word cemetery. The same word was used in that day for inns, or what we would call a hotel or motel. A Hilton Hotel, a Ramada Inn, or a Holiday Inn. They're the places where you spend the night to sleep. You expect to get up the next day and continue your journey. This is the picture of the place where you bury your believing loved ones. You don't weep when you have a friend who goes and spends a weekend in a Hilton Hotel, do you? No, you rejoice with him. The body of the believer has just been put into a motel until the resurrection. One day the Lord is coming, and that body is going to be raised up. Now let us return to our consideration of the actual text of verse 13. "That ye sorrow not, even as others, the rest, which have no hope." The pagan world had no hope. So for them death was a frightful thing. In Thessalonica, they have found an inscription that says, "After death, no reviving. After the grave, no meeting again." The Greek poet Theocritus wrote, "Hopes are among the living. The dead are without hope." That was the belief of the ancient world. It is pretty pessimistic and doleful. Believers are not to sorrow as the pagans. I have officiated at many funeral services during the years of my ministry, and I can always tell if the family is Christian. I can tell by the way the people weep whether they have hope or not. Christians weep, of course. There is nothing wrong with that. Paul never says that believers are not to weep. What he does say is that we are not to sorrow as the others which have no hope. A Christian has a sorrow at the death of a loved one, but he also has hope.